Namaste. In stanza 53 of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when your discrimination is no longer tossed about by opinions, but abides unshaken in soul bliss, then you will attain final union with God. Now, the idea of opinions, we don't need opinions, we need truth. And opinions are a very risky thing. I can think that the moon is made of green cheese, but that doesn't make it that way. Better go there and find out what it is made of. We have to understand that opinions are not the reality. Wisdom is the reality, and wisdom is not based on opinion. Wisdom is based on certain knowledge. So Krishna is speaking here about that degree of certain knowledge, which, above opinions, stands unshaken in soul bliss. Soul bliss is wisdom. So, then will you attain final union with God. Verse 54, Arjuna said, O Keshava, Krishna, what are the signs of one who has attained calm wisdom and is established in union with God? How does he see? How does he speak, sit, walk? And Krishna replies, O Partha, Arjuna, one who has put away all desires, being wholly centered and contented in the self, may be considered settled in wisdom. Wisdom is not thinking, wisdom is not opinions, wisdom is not working your way to a conclusion like a rationalist or a scientist or whatever it may be. Wisdom is knowing. Wisdom is the knowledge that Einstein had of the whole principle of relativity when it came to him in a flash. And then over 10 years he worked to make it clear to other people. Wisdom is something that is absolutely certain and calm and centered in the self. And when you have it, nobody can contest it. So one who has that wisdom is always contented in the self. He whose consciousness, this is verse 56, he whose consciousness is unshaken by affliction and is not excited by good fortune, who no longer hungers for earthly affection and is without fear and anger, such a man qualifies to be considered a muni of steady discrimination. So a man of wisdom, it was like that story of King Alexander, Emperor Alexander. They call him the Great in Greece and in the West. In the East, they call him the Great Destroyer, because that's what he did. He destroyed many civilizations. But anyway, when he came to India, he became very intrigued by these yogis that he'd heard about. I'll tell you an interesting thing, just as a sidelight before I forget it, that Yogananda said that Adolf Hitler, was in a former life Alexander the Great, and that Hitler in this life had that potential for much of the Nazis' teaching was very sort of esoteric, and they tried to do all sorts of things like see if there wasn't a center to the earth and a civilization there, and he was very intrigued by these esoteric things. And when Yogananda went through Europe, he tried to see him, and Hitler wouldn't see him. But if Yogananda had seen him, perhaps the course of history would have been changed. Perhaps he would have awakened him to his more spiritual, latent tendencies. At any rate, Alexander had heard about these yogis, and he was very intrigued to know what they were like. And he heard about one who lived out in the forest, living under a tree with nothing. And so he sent a messenger to him. And the messenger said that our royal master would like to see you, and if you come, he will heap you with treasures. But if you don't come, he will take your head. So he was a bit of a drastic fellow, wasn't he? And the yogi just looked at him calmly. He said, the treasures your master offers me are absolutely useless to me. I have no interest in them. And as for taking my head, he's welcome to it. I'm not attached to this body. I have long ago attained what I was born to attain. And whether you take my head or not, whether I die or not, it doesn't matter to me anymore. Now, when you can have that level of wisdom, then nothing can disturb you. Nothing can take away your inner peace. Wisdom is knowing peace, knowing God. God is peace, God is calmness, God is wisdom, God is love, God is power, God is joy, and what is the other? Can't think of it right now. Anyway, 8 manifestations that are basically of God, and calmness is one of them. The difference between peace and calmness is that peace is a passive thing. Calmness is very vibrant and strong. Both are needed. You have to attain peace before you can find in that peace the vibrancy of calmness. And so Krishna is saying that when you're completely calm in yourself, nothing can touch you, and you have wisdom. And so how does a man of wisdom comport himself? By indifference to everything. He doesn't care what people think. He knows what's true. He doesn't have to worry whether it is or isn't. Like some story I heard about somebody who was looking for a guru, and he went high into the mountains, and he asked this guru, "Sir, what is the secret of life?" And the guru, this is only a joke, mind you, and the guru said, "Life, my son, is a rainbow." And the man said, "What do you mean? I've come all this way and climbed all these peaks and taken so much effort to come here, and I learned that life is nothing but a stupid rainbow?" And the yogi said, "You mean it isn't a rainbow?" Well, of course, a truly wise person doesn't have to worry whether he's right or not. He knows he's right. And he doesn't care if nobody believes him. He knows he's right. The truth is a fact. And you no longer have to worry about the big battle of different opinions and philosophies and theories and so on. You just know. And how do you know? Because it gives you complete inner satisfaction and bliss. There's nothing that can touch that. And so Krishna is saying here that when you have attained that quality, you have become a man, a muni of steady discrimination. 57. He who, under all circumstances, is without attachment, and is neither elated by goodness nor depressed by evil, is a man of established wisdom. Now you might think that after all, evil in this world should be extirpated. You don't have to worry about it. God will take care of it in His own time. He does bring avatars, send avatars back into this world to punish evil and to bring virtue back again. But you don't have to feel that it's your responsibility to take care of this world. It's a very interesting contradiction here in a sense, because you can't just let God do it all. You have to understand that this is a war between good and evil, and it's important for your sake to fight on the part of the angels, to fight against evil. But you mustn't let evil disturb you. This is the nature of the world. And there will be people murdering, there will be people stealing and hurting other people. And the Nazi thing was a very good example because I grew up in that time. I remember being in Vienna and seeing these Nazi officers, "Heil Hitler!" And I would say, "Hi there." But I didn't need to be touched by it, and I couldn't help being touched by it. I know that many, after the Russians took over the eastern part of Europe, many people were sent to Siberia, and Germans especially. And a friend of ours in Teliagin, where I lived, he became a Nazi, and he was saying, "We Germans will conquer the world," and he was all just absolute bilge. But the poor fellow had to go to Siberia, to a gulag there, and he died there. And these are the evils of this world. He was evil in thinking that way. The Russians are evil in sending him that way. And my guru said that Genghis Khan was Stalin. Or I should put it this way, Stalin was Genghis Khan. And Genghis Khan used to go from town to town, kill everybody, make a mound of their skulls, and then leave people in hiding, so that when people began coming out of their hiding, these people would go and butcher them too. He was a very evil man, but he will get his comeuppance. Somebody asked my guru, how long will Stalin have to suffer for those incarnations as a butcher? And Master said, 100,000 years. And this disciple said, you mean only that? And Master said, how long do you want somebody to suffer? God doesn't hate people for being evil. He hates the evil, you might say, but he doesn't hate the doer. He's here to help us. He's our friend. And when we have learned our lesson, that's done. Still, you do have that karma to pay off. And if you have to suffer anything, you have to pay that. You have to pay karma. You just have to accept it. You know, in that Brigu reading that I got many years ago, it told me many things about my future that were nice to hear. Then it said, I have told him the results of his good actions. Now let him hear the results of his bad actions. And he told me certain things. Like he said there will be danger of sudden death to him, to his life, sudden ending of his life. And it is a fact, very interestingly. One time I was coming to my ashram in the retreat in the desert. Suddenly I found myself surrounded by a flock of crows. And I thought, this has to be an evil omen. I didn't know what it was. Well, I'd been sleeping out of doors. And when the time came 2 days later to pack everything up and go back to Los Angeles, I took the sheets apart, and between the two sheets was a squashed black widow spider. It would have killed me, but by grace it was squashed. And another time, I was setting up for a big function in Puri, and I was getting ready to put the microphone in a particular position. When I grabbed both ends of the microphone boom, the entire current went through me. It lifted me off the ground, and it really disturbed my mind my heart for several days after that. But as it lifted me off the ground, in that split second, the fuse blew. And it took them a half an hour to find another fuse to replace it. But at least my life was spared, because when you grab something like that, with that kind of current, you can't let go. And the third time, I was in Italy and I bought a lambretta, and I thought that would be a nice thing to have in India. Well, nowadays you see these motor scooters everywhere, but this was about 50 years ago, and there wasn't that same clogging of the streets with motor scooters, and I thought it would be a good thing to have, much cheaper and so on. So I got this lambretta, and when it arrived in India, I unpacked it, and I was living in it was Sultan Singh building in Old Delhi, and the courtyard of Sultan Singh building is a very high brick wall on all sides. And I turned the key, and I didn't know it, but the motor was already in gear. And as soon as I turned the key, boom, it took off at high speed toward one of these brick walls. I didn't know how to work this machine. I'd only just bought it. And I had about 1, maybe at the most 2 seconds to find out how to stop it. And with God's grace, I was able to find a way to get it into neutral and put my foot on the brake, and I stopped that close to the wall. But if I'd hit that wall, surely I would have died. So that prediction was true. And your bad karma will certainly find its way, but if you have faith in God, God can protect you from that karma. And you know, you can put it this way, as I think the wife of Ramakrishna put it. She said, what's her name? Sarada. She said that if it is your karma to lose a leg, and you have devotion to God, you may only get a scratch. The karma has to come, but this devotion to God is a preventive, and helps to nullify the bad karmic effects of some past action. So remember, when you love God, He will protect you. And the more you love Him, the more you will find that protection. So don't worry about karma. Don't do what so many people, oh, karma, karma, karma. Forget that. Love God. Everything will be fine in your life if you give your love to Him. I was protected by my devotion. That man who would have lost a leg was protected by his devotion. And another thing that happened was, as I've told this story before, well worth repeating, after Hiroshima, the bomb that fell there, There was one little community of spiritual people dedicated to God right in the heart of Hiroshima. They were unscathed by that atom bomb. So God will protect you. And remember this too, because of course sometime or later, or earlier or later, you will have to die. But remember, his protection will be with you then. And the more you love him, the more sure you are to go to a higher loka and to enjoy the afterlife. But remember, freedom from this world demands your own effort too. You have to work hard. As the saint was told, to find real freedom, you must live on this world. So don't think that living on this world is your misfortune. It is a great blessing. The longer you in living here, if you give your life to God, you can in this lifetime attain moksha. You can't attain it from the astral world. You can attain it from this world. And Krishna is showing us the way. He's saying, be indifferent to the things around you. Be indifferent to people's opinions. Don't be indifferent to truth. Don't be indifferent to joy. Don't be indifferent to dharma and God. But be indifferent to all these waves and so on. Don't let yourself be taken up and down on the waves of circumstances. Be completely still and calm in yourself. And Krishna says that when you attain that state of calmness, then you can attain freedom and attain oneness with God. God is that state where there is no movement. Maya is that state where there is nothing but movement. We want to go beyond movement to the final stillness of the spirit. This is moksha. This is freedom from delusion. Joy to you.